way too much doom and gloom in terms of the national media. Tennessee should be in the conversation for the college football playoffs, and we'll tell you why right now.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Tuesday morning Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain. I'm a part of the VolQuest.com On3 team covering Tennessee athletics here in town. And of course, I'm your host of Locked On Vols, weekday mornings when you wake up, free and available wherever you find your podcast. Please subscribe to the channel. You can listen to us wherever. Subscribe, download all those episodes. That's how the show grows. And today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That is over at FanDuel Sportsbook, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That is this show, where it is your team every single day. All right, fun show coming up. Ryan Shumpert of Rocky Top Insider is going to join the show. We'll talk a lot of Tennessee football in the beginning, and then we'll talk some Tennessee baseball there, kind of leading into your mailbag questions coming up in segment number 3. So I'm going to get out of the way. We're going to talk to Ryan Shumpert right now on Locked On Vols. Ryan, you look at, we'll talk SEC win totals here in a moment. Tennessee, in regards to its opponents, not bad. I know the schedule's pretty weak, but national storylines, doom and gloom, Tennessee's done, all this and more. I mean, are you in my camp or am I too sunshine pumping right now? I love this roster for Tennessee. Yes, there are so many questions. I get that. Quarterback, a massive question. But I love this roster. I think this is a deep and talented roster. And I think if you have a quarterback that comes in, and Nico made some big boy throws against Alabama and all that, but for the most part, you won on defense and a run game manager. You get a quarterback coming in here and manage this game. No reason for me not to believe Tennessee hits the over at 8.5 and potentially could be in line for a college football playoff spot. Tell me I'm too much sunshine right now. Poke holes in my argument.
I think you're a little too much sunshine. I think you're right that some of the doom and gloom stuff nationally is a little overblown because I think Tennessee's defense is going to be good again. And certainly there's some questions, but to me there's a very normal amount of questions of you need the linebackers to take a step. You need one of these guys at edge to be able to feel some production from maybe more of a pressure standpoint than a sack standpoint that you lose with James Pierce. I think one of the big things why I love the Colton Hood pickup so much is, to me, one of those questions was, all right, can you get Jermod McCoy back by Georgia, and can he play like the guy he did last year? And can he play like the guy he did last year remains a question, but I think that's a much smaller one now than it was before Tennessee got Colton Hood. So I'm with you on the defense. There's a couple questions, but not an abnormal amount. If they hit on a couple of those, they should be just as good as they were last year, if not better. And I throw a safety spot in there too. Offensively, I don't think the sky will fall because I think you saw Tennessee do a lot of it last year. They played game manager, and you saw Josh Heupel, I'm sure, play a lot more 12 personnel than he would ever want to do if he had it his way and played to Tennessee's strengths. And I think they will have some of those again. I think the run game will always at least be good in Josh Heupel's offense. I feel, maybe it'll be a little bit of a step back without Dylan Sampson, but I don't think it's going to be a big one. And to me, there's just too many questions for the offense. To me to feel like it's very realistic they can make the playoffs. They're going to for sure hit that 8.5 over. Quarterback play, I'm as low on the receiver room as I think as I possibly could be, which those two things go hand in hand a little bit. And offensive line, I don't think the sky is falling there. I think there's more reasons for optimism than receiver, but there are a lot of questions. They do got to hit on a lot of spots. So to me, the offense, and combine that with the fact that they got to go to Alabama and to Georgia, which I always think those years are harder on the schedule than the inverse where you got to go to Georgia, and I just don't think they're going to beat Georgia anywhere. So yeah, that would be my poking the hole in the college football playoff argument.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I don't want to take away from the offensive line last year because they dang near ran for 3,000 yards, and that's impressive. And Dylan Sampson was incredible. But to your point, I mean, Tennessee has ran for over 2,500 yards in all 4 years Josh Heupel's been here. They're going to run the football well. So can you be elite in that regard? We'll see. But from a pass pro standpoint, boy, it was a trip last year. You had a right tackle that was in and out. John Campbell couldn't stay healthy. Dane Davis is in there. Lance Hurd did not play to the ability that he needed to. Javonte Spraggins regressed. I think he was playing hurt. Cooper was pretty solid, and Andre Carrick was actually probably your best offensive lineman outside of Cooper Mays. I think, though, it's going to be different. and you're going to have to take some baby steps and be patient with David Sanders at right tackle. Gosh, if Lance Hurd can take a step, I think this offensive line is going to be better in pass pro. With Pendleton and with Mo, I think Mo's going to be a stud there at one of the guard spots as well. Questions at center. But, I mean, that's how I look at the offensive line. And then you look at receiver. You said you're as low in the receiver room as you could possibly be. I mean, I am too. But, like, I look at last year's receiver room, and, yeah, Dante Thornton was a bright spot. But, man, he was never on the field. So it's almost, in my opinion, like the receiver room is kind of a wash. I mean, yeah, like, you knew Brew could play when healthy. You knew Dante Thornton was talented. Squirrel White was Tennessee's best receiver in 2023, but none of those things really materialize outside of Dante Thornton with his limited playing time. So to me, it's like the receiver room's kind of a wash. It was bad last year, so much unknown this year. Just go and play ball. And so I don't know. Again, this might be pumping a little bit, but I'm just like, I look at all these different scenarios and I'm like, well, offensive line play can be a wash, but they can be better in this regard. Wide receivers were so bad last year. Surely to goodness they can be better in this regard. They just need to stay healthy.
Yeah, I think on the receiver front, the health one's a big thing where if everything stays healthy, like, yeah, they can probably get by, but they're an injury or two away from being in real trouble. That's
an issue.
Like. And you're right. Dante Thornton was not on the field as much as Tennessee's offense needed him to be with the receiver room, but when he was out there, that was a guy that you had to worry about if you were a defense coordinator that struck fear into other defenses. And, maybe Mike Matthews can become that guy. Like I'd say he's probably the most likely. Maybe Braylon Staley. I think he's maybe got a little bit of big play threat. Probably more of it in the slot than Tennessee had a year ago. But I still, the Thornton thing's right about him not being on the field. I'm still hesitant to think they're going to be able to have someone that can strike that fear. And the offensive line, two things I want to hit on there. I think Lance Hurd's a big question. I think you're absolutely right. I think you hit the nail on the head. If he takes a big step forward, this offensive line should be better in pass protection. And then the big thing that I feel like when you get a little bit more into nuance that separated Tennessee's run games in a couple of these seasons, can they run the ball on 3rd and short against good teams? That's been a difference maker. 21, they couldn't do it. 23, they couldn't do it. 22, they did it at an elite rate. They had Hendon with his running ability and his ability in the short passing game, I think made defenses have to play them a little more honestly. And then last year they did it at a really high level against everybody they played. So to me, they're going to run the ball well overall. I think no matter what, that would be the big question because Josh Heupel doesn't get super creative on 3rd and short type situations. He wants to ideally go quick, line it up, run it right at you. And I think that's been a separator for it. Maybe doesn't always show up in the stat sheet, but it's been a separator for the offenses in the run games in particular in 22 and 24, which it felt like 3rd and 1, even against, Alabama, Georgia, maybe a little bit more hit or miss, LSU, they could line it up. They could run it right at you. They could get a first down. Yeah,
I mean, they surprised Nick Saban coming on the goal line. I don't know what down and distance it was, but they were on the goal line, came out in offset eye with Princeton Fan at fullback and scored a touchdown. But it continued on. I mean, he wasn't getting a ton of carries, but that was a role for him on offense, and it was an elite role in 2022. Let me ask you this, man. Offensively, and this is defensively, you can go a couple different directions, and I've done it on the show last week. Offensively, who is Tennessee's best player? I mean, you really got to think about it.
That's a great question. I think purely from what we've seen to this point, you'd probably say Miles Kitselman.
Yeah.
And I think you could go a number of directions for who will be the best player. Because Miles Kitselman's really valuable. Don't get me wrong. I'm always one kind of tapping the brakes on the role of the tight ends in the passing game. Even last year when we saw it more, it wasn't massive. So
that role goes so much more beyond the stat sheet in this offense. It's just kind of an unsung hero a little bit. Continue.
Definitely so. My prediction would be Deshaun Bishop. If he can stay healthy, been a big issue for him his first 2 years. I think he's the most talented of a talented running back group. So I would maybe go with him. And then the one I would go with, and we've touched on it a little bit, best case scenario, Tennessee's best player, it's got to be some version of Lance Hurd or Mike Matthews. One of those two guys, it's feasible that could be their best player on offense. And if you're looking back, you're saying, all right, on December 10th, we're saying who's been Tennessee's best player offensively. I think you'd want it to be one of those two guys.
Yep, can't argue with that. Let's talk about SEC win totals real quick before we talk a little baseball on the other side. Look at this right here. This is from FanDuel, updated SEC win totals. And Tennessee, of course, started in that grouping at the top at 9.5 with Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. Nico leaves. Tennessee drops down to 8.5 of the grouping of LSU, Ole Miss, Texas. But here's what I want to point out, Ryan, and we talked about it on yesterday's show. Tennessee has a greater win-loss projection or win total projection than 6 of its 8 opponents. Georgia and Alabama clearly above Tennessee. But look at the right column here. If you're watching on YouTube, look at the right column. Look from Florida down. Tennessee plays every single one of those teams. Florida, Oklahoma, 6.5. Arkansas, 5.5. Kentucky, 4.5. Vanderbilt, 4.5. Mississippi State, 3.5. So another fuel to the fire, right? That Tennessee can hit that over. That Tennessee could be in conversations for the CFP. I'm not saying it'll make it, but simply because as it benefited last year at times, that schedule, let's call it what it is, man. It's weak, at least on paper entering the season. It is a weak schedule for SEC standards, and Tennessee can take advantage.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's almost a weird dichotomy, and it was the same case last year, and you see it there where they play Alabama and Georgia. They play 2 teams at the very top and just nobody in the middle, basically. Yeah. And some of that is, I think is a little bit just of an indictment of you only play half the teams in the SEC. So some of these teams, Oklahoma, Florida, have brutal schedules. I think Florida especially is probably better than their win-loss total would indicate. I think South Carolina is the same way too. Obviously, Tennessee doesn't play them. So that's some of it. But you're right. There's absolutely opportunities. You look at it, outside of the big 3, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, on paper, Tennessee shouldn't lose any of those games. I think you feel really good about Josh Heupel at home in his tenure. Look, the last 4 years, they've only lost to Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. 2 losses to Georgia in the last 4 years at Neyland Stadium. So you feel good. And, who knows? We would have said the same thing about Arkansas a year ago, but Mississippi State, Kentucky on the road, you feel pretty good that you can win those 2 games. So, look, it basically comes down to, can you avoid the bad loss that has gotten them every single year under Josh Heupel, and can you find a way to steal one of those games when it comes to Florida, Alabama, and Georgia, games that you're probably not going to be favored in any of them. Maybe it'll be favored against Florida. We'll see. That game's a long way away in November. But can you steal one of those games, and can you avoid the bad loss? When you just paint it like that, it's feasible for Tennessee to go 10-2 and make the playoffs again.
Yeah, 2 places Tennessee hasn't won, I believe. I know Florida for sure, but I'm pretty sure Alabama's like this as well since 2003. Hadn't won in Tuscaloosa, hadn't won in the Swamp since 2003. And, yeah, that's the next to the last game of the regular season, Florida, November 22nd. Florida, I would not have wanted any part of Florida on November 22nd, 2024. So teams can change in a hurry, that is for sure. Real quick, when we come back, what does Tennessee need to do in Hoover to pick up an NCAA hosting regional spot? I'm going to ask Ron that question when we come back right here on Locked On Vols. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on all the action than right now. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have even more ways to bet smart and win big. Major League Baseball happening right now. I watch my Atlanta Braves every single night. I know that lineup better than maybe the average fan or the common fan or whatever. I know who's hot. I know who's not. You can slap those in there with the same-game parlay and make even more. $200 in bonus bets. It's so exciting here this summer. What could you do with all that extra cash? You can check it all out over at FanDuel Sportsbook right now. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up, all right? Head on over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Again, first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets if you're new to FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and it's where you can make every moment more. The SEC baseball tournament kicks off from Hoover, Alabama this week. Tennessee will get going with either Missouri or Alabama on Wednesday morning. Those 2 teams might be playing right now when you're listening and watching us here on Locked On Vols here on a Tuesday morning. But Ryan, outside chance, and let's be completely frank here, Tennessee's lost 6 of the last 7 series. They've lost 5 straight. Tennessee doesn't deserve to host an NCAA regional. In fact, I think Tennessee... there's something to sleeping in your own bed and being at home. I get all that. So you're not under the bleachers dodging lightning in Hattiesburg. But Tennessee likes playing on the road. Tennessee, I think, plays better on the road. But in your opinion, what does Tennessee need to do in order to put itself in a really good position to make the committee think like, okay, maybe Tennessee should get that 15th or 16th overall seed?
I think they probably need to make it to Sunday at the minimum. That would be 3 more wins to get them to 19 SEC wins on the season. To feel like it's a lock, I think it's probably win the SEC tournament. 3, I think at least makes it a conversation, but kind of like basketball, maybe not quite as dramatic as basketball is. It just feels like the committee doesn't take a ton of stock in what happens in Hoover, especially as the week goes on. As it comes to bubble teams making a tournament, yeah, I think a game or two early on can have an impact, but it doesn't feel like when it comes to a host or in basketball, a 1 seed conversation, it doesn't feel like what happens late in the week in the SEC tournament typically carries a ton of weight. But we'll see. Tennessee can make it a tough decision on them if they can make a deep run.
Yeah, I do think that a little bit more weight might come with baseball than it does. I mean, basketball means jack crap. I mean, we've seen that the last couple of years. It means absolutely nothing. Baseball, maybe a little bit different in terms of hosting that conversation. I mean, if Tennessee goes on and wins Wednesday, Thursday, you're presumably beating Alabama and Texas. That's RPI team 9-4. Those are 2 really good wins. Then you go on to have 2 other wins if you win the whole thing. I mean, that's what, 20? Yeah, 20 SEC wins. I mean, or 19, whatever it is. I mean, that's pretty daggone good, and it'd be hard to deny Tennessee a host spot there, but we'll have to see. I think more than anything in terms of what you need to accomplish in Hoover, you just need to feel good about yourselves, and that sounds so minimal and so elementary. Ryan, you probably share my thoughts on this, though it was frustrating leaving so many men on. Tennessee still had a pretty good average on the weekend, runners in scoring position. The runs were up. Tennessee out-hit Arkansas. The offense looked better top to bottom. It was the first 3 hitters, or the top of the order, minus Andrew Fisher, that was struggling, and the middle and the bottom of the order played pretty well throughout the weekend. The pitching still there's just not enough. There's just not enough. So for me, what Tennessee needs to accomplish in the Hoover, feel good about yourselves, pick up a couple wins, because you are literally limping into Hoover right now. You want to do anything you can to, make that limp maybe a jog heading into NCAA regionals.
Yeah, I think almost more than anything, just win a game. Because I almost think it'd be better for him if Liam Doyle didn't have to pitch this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, they've just asked him to do a lot, so I think lessening his workload wouldn't be a bad thing. So I agree with all that, and yeah, I've said this a couple different places. You go back to the last couple series, Vanderbilt, inability to control the run game, leaving runners in scoring position. Auburn was just a fiasco all around. LSU, you blow the game on Friday night. It felt like we left those series talking a lot about Tennessee's issues and Tennessee's screw-ups. To me, I left the Arkansas series more just like, Tennessee played pretty good. They just lost to a better team on the road.
You had I'm the same way, but still something that, man, this team, it gets hit with adversity and then it just snowballs. That 3rd inning, right? You had the ball call, massive call, borderline call. Frank Anderson, I'm so surprised he did not get kicked out of that game. But what happens after that? Something way worse. A botched ground ball at second base, tie ball game. From there, walk, grand slam, 6-2. It was 2-1. Then it was 6-2 in the span of 7 minutes? I mean, It all turned quickly there, and you knew Tennessee wasn't going to win that game. So, I'm with you. I left Arkansas thinking, okay, better baseball. But still, when you look down into it, it's like self-imploding, that 3rd inning. I mean, it's just, it's so annoying watching this team when it does stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think and you can still do that to where, and I've said it many times, there's no area on this team besides Liam Doyle that this team's really solid. So Gavin Keelan throws the ball away in the 5th inning on Saturday. And even with a bad Liam Doyle start, as bad as he's looked all season, Tennessee loses that game by 2 runs. They cost themselves 2 runs on a pretty routine play right there. So that's what makes it, I think, if you're listening to things that make it hard for Tennessee to see Tennessee making a deep run, it's just a lot of things need to get cleaned up, at least against elite competition. Regional could be different. But no, I agree with that. The one thing I would say to the contrary, I will give Tennessee credit to responding, because I've kind of criticized their ability to do that too. Friday night, I mean, things went awry in the 8th inning for Nate Snead. It was a 1-run game. Tennessee responded, scored 3 in the top of the 9th to get it back to 4. And if the Tennessee, who knows? I don't have a time machine to go see what would have happened otherwise. But Tennessee doesn't get 3 runs. I have little confidence in them winning that opening game. And then you're leaving Fayetteville talking about another just disaster for the Vols in the natural state.
Well, yeah, Cannon Peoples there. I mean, Cannon Peoples is like, he's done it 3 times already. He did it at South Carolina. He did it at Fayetteville. And I want to say, was it Ole Miss?
LSU.
LSU, yeah. I mean, just, when Tennessee needs some insurance or go ahead home run or some insurance home runs, I mean, it's, that last at bat for Cannon Peoples, man, he just gets it done. So that was awesome to see. SEC Pitcher of the Year, Liam Doyle, 3rd in program history. I mean, it was a no-brainer, right? But you called the shot earlier in the year, and I got to give you props, man, because I mean, it was a huge addition to get Liam Doyle. Tennessee wouldn't have taken him unless they didn't see something that they thought like, ooh, let's get him in here, let's mold this, let's change it around. But I mean, last year, I mean, you saw the stats. Liam Doyle was not who he is now last year with Ole Miss. The stats were bad, but Liam Doyle comes in here this year, turns things around. He's the SEC Pitcher of the Year, and he's probably going to be a top 10 pick.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you saw the fact that when Tennessee got him, he was already a Saturday starter. Didn't have a great year by any means. You hit on it, but there was talent there. Just a sophomore, just his first year in the league. You felt like, all right, he'll take a step forward and be a good starter for Tennessee next year. Working with Frank will help him. But after seeing, watching him in the preseason, watching him in the fall, I don't think I had seen him give up a single run. He was so dominant. It felt a little bit. I know you were the same way, Kaner, because you were over there watching him a lot. The guys us media guys and the select fans that were over there watching him a lot in the preseason and the fall, it felt like you had a little bit of a hidden secret of like, this guy is, even though I thought he was going to be good for Tennessee, he looks like a completely different cat than even what we expected.
Ryan Shumpert, Rocky Top Insider, what do you got coming up on the website this week outside of Tennessee and Hoover?
Yeah, we'll have plenty of coverage on that. Anything that pops up, Tennessee basketball still got one more roster spot, and then Tennessee football, a couple, just off-season things to be optimistic, things to be pessimistic. Kind of a lot of what our conversation was earlier in the day, planning on doing later this week. And then another one that we'll see when Tennessee baseball gets knocked out of SEC, but a story I'm planning on doing sometime between the SEC tournament and the NCAA regional is power ranking the most trustworthy arms in Tennessee's bullpen, which I think is a fun thought exercise for a bullpen that's not been great. So that could be an interesting one. I'm sure anybody that reads it, there'll probably be plenty of disagreements because you can go in a number of different directions just because there hasn't been a ton of separation.
That's one of those stories or conversation, because I've had that conversation with Brent and a lot of people, my dad the other day, like there's so much talent there. Like Tanner Franklin can throw a baseball 102 miles an hour. He's going to be a first couple round draft pick in June, right? But you look at that ERA. Nate Snead's ERA right now. Look at that ERA, especially in SEC play. But you know what Nate Snead can do. Dylan Loy pitches every game, it feels like. There's so many different pieces you like Braden Krenzel, minus the 4 walks the other day. Like, Braden Krenzel's going to be a good one. So, there's so much talent there. But, it is, in terms of, outside of those names I mentioned, nobody else that you really feel good about right now. So, that should be a fun story for you coming up.
Yeah, outside of A.J. Russell, it feels like everybody's kind of if you just ask one inning out of him, you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
The problem is Tennessee's starting pitching, besides Liam Doyle, is not good enough to need only one inning from those guys on any given day. And you see Franklin and Snead especially, I think, would be the 2 guys you highlight. When you stretch them out and you need a little bit more from them, it feels like things have gone sideways.
Got a final segment left here of this Tuesday morning Locked On Vols, but thanks to Ryan Shumpert of Rocky Top Insider for joining the show. And got 3 or 4 mailbag questions, so we'll stretch them out here and make this a segment number 3. As always, you guys can send in some questions. I'll bookmark them and try to relay them to the next week and answer them if I can. But we will start with Rocky Top Tom. So I asked this question exactly on this exact week last year regarding the baseball team. This year, it's softball. What does the road to a ring look like for the Lady Vols? They've taken series both from number 1 Oklahoma and number 1 Texas on the road. They can win it. I'm never going to count out Karen Weekly's ball club. She recruits well. She develops well. Of course, Ralph was a big part of that for so long, and I know he's still around the program a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know everything about Lady Vols softball. I have not watched one game this year. I've kept up on social media and certainly really, really happy for the program going on to another Supers. That's awesome. But I know Pickens, the pitcher, Karen was really strategic in how she used her in regional play, starting, taking her out, bring her back in there to close it, to get the signature win there. I also know that she's had, I don't have the number on me, but I heard it the other day, she's had several starts this year, multiple, I want to say 3 to 4, maybe 5, where she's given up 2 earned runs or less, or 1 earned run or less, and Tennessee's not gotten the win. So when your ace is on the mound, you need to back that ace and not waste those starts. And so at minimum, you got to make the pick and starts worthwhile, and just see what happens after that. So again, I don't know. Oklahoma is always so good. I know you said they're number 1 earlier. I mean, Oklahoma is one of the best programs in all college softball and has been for so long. Playing away from home has been good for Tennessee. So don't waste those starts. Continue to build off those and see what happens. Should be exciting. Let's go to Kobe. What could our pitching rotation look like next year with the Vols? Yeah, Marcus Phillips will be drafted. Liam Dewell will be drafted. Tegan Kuhns will be back, so he'll be in that rotation. Braden Krenzel could be an interesting piece. He's been a bullpen arm this year. I could see him certainly maybe moving up into the starting rotation next year. I think that's somebody to look out for. Dylan Loy is always going to be in this conversation, but I think clearly his best role is in the bullpen. Transfer portal will absolutely be in play here. Going and trying to find a starting pitcher, going and trying to find maybe a couple starting pitchers. Just like Tennessee's done the last couple of years, I think starting pitching will absolutely be a focus in the transfer portal for sure. Outside of that, a guy that was a highly rated recruit, had Tommy John surgery, before coming to Tennessee, is not on the active roster this year. A guy just to pay attention to. I'm not saying that he's going to be a guy, but just a guy to pay attention to because there's a lot of talent there when healthy in terms of recruiting, and that's Anson Siebert. Anson Siebert was drafted because of the injury. He got drafted, I want to say, in the 4th round, but he was slated much, much, much higher than that. Maybe his asking price was too high as well, but he's a guy to kind of be on the lookout for. So right now, I'd say Tegan Kuhns. I'd watch out for Braden Krenzel. I would pay attention to Anson Siebert. I would look ahead to the transfer portal for sure. And then anybody else that kind of emerges. I mean, there's a couple of hurlers that were not on the active roster, maybe just taking red shirts this year, that Tennessee really, really likes. And so I would kind of start that conversation right there. We'll go to Andrew. Andrew says, I've seen Idris Farouk play a few times, and it seems like he always lays the wood. People, myself included, love a hard-hitting safety. What is his outlook? Has he improved enough in coverage to see the field more? Would love a stud back there to solidify our defense. Doesn't really matter if he's improved or not. He has. But it doesn't really matter because Tennessee doesn't have many safeties. Andre Turrentine's going to be a starting safety, and then the 3-man rotation right now is Andre Turrentine playing opposite of an Idris Farouk and a Caleb Beasley, because Jacoby Thomas left via the transfer portal, Christian Charles left via the transfer portal, John Slaughter, who is well behind the pack, left via the transfer portal. Outside of some freshmen, there's just not a lot in that cupboard there in terms of depth. So Idris Farouk is absolutely going to play. But no, I think he has improved, right? I mean, they put him in there on one of those goal line. I don't think it was a package. I just think that he went in there because somebody got hurt or lost a helmet, or maybe the helmet communicator or whatever. But he went in there. He was in there for a couple of plays when Georgia scored on the goal line. Quite the time to put in a true freshman for some meaningful snaps. But he did see a couple of snaps that were meaningful. He was not on the 4-man rotation last year or the 3-man safety rotation when Christian Charles was hurt. But they love him. They really, really like him. Underrated as a recruit. Big-time physical presence. But the difference with him between Jacoby Thomas, I think Farouk can play in space a little bit more. And I think that's kind of the hope. So, no, he's going to play. He'll probably be a starter. Excited to see what he looks like because he was the guy that the staff really, really liked in terms of recruiting, and they loved the developmental aspect of him last year, whenever he was working, and not playing a lot, but working on campus for sure. Final question. Again, I told you we didn't have many here on this Tuesday morning. Final question is going to go to Ed. Excuse me. Ed says, in honor of Memorial Day weekend, what do you put on the grill? Hot dog, burger, or a sausage? Oh, man. All. I love brats, hot dogs, burgers. I mean, Memorial Day weekend, I think you can't really go wrong, right? A lot of time, we had this conversation on the starting lineup now that's Tyler and Will in the afternoon. It was 4th of July were dogs, Labor Day or Father's Day was steaks, but Labor Day was also a steak day, and Memorial Day was barbecue. I've never really followed that subscription. I've never really subscribed to that. I don't think you can go wrong. But here lately, I got the grill out back. My little family, we've been doing brats, hot dogs, and grilling vegetables on the grill. and it's been really, really good. And so, put some asparagus in there, put some oil in there, wrap it in aluminum foil, put it in the back shelf of the grill. Get your brats here, some burgers. Go to Sam. We live near Sam's. Fantastic meat over there at Sam's. I guess I really shouldn't be endorsing anybody that doesn't pay for this podcast. But really, really good meat selection there. Steaks as well, and put it on the grill. And when I grill, I like to grill a lot of food, and then I'll have stuff to eat. Me and my wife will have stuff to eat for the next couple of days as well. So I will, depending on what's going on, that Memorial Day will be Selection Sunday for baseball. So I'm going to be working all day. Depending on if Tennessee's still in Hoover, excuse me. Depending on if Tennessee's still in Hoover, maybe I'll be back over the weekend. I'll have some chance to get out there and be on the water a little bit and have some cookouts and some stuff like that. But to answer your question, really all the above, because we like to cook a lot and we like to save a lot and we like to eat it for the rest of the week as well. So hope everybody has a safe and awesome Memorial Day weekend coming up. We'll have some shows obviously between now and then, but nonetheless, Memorial Day weekend is coming up. All right, that's going to be it. Big thanks to Ryan Shumpert for joining the show. Big thank you to you guys for sending in your questions, your comments, your concerns. Everydayers, could not do this show without you. We'll have Josh Ward coming up tomorrow. We'll see what's happening in the world of Tennessee football. We'll see what's happening and see who the opponent is for Tennessee baseball in the SEC tournament. I still have probably going to be a Wednesday show, Wednesday or Thursday show, but I still have that 2023 recruiting rankings that I've re-ranked. And I'm going to do 2024 after that as well. It's going to be a slow burn, but we did 2022 one day last week, got 2023. That's going to be a show at some point this week. Loads and loads of information and entertainment right here on Locked On Vols every single weekday morning, where when you wake up, free and available where you get your podcast, and of course on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Really, really do appreciate it. This is Locked On Vols.